All right, I think we are live now.
Redbeard,
All
quick, do a live thing.
right.
Really?
Yes.
Yes. Work.
All right, give me a second. Coming to you live from wherever this place is, doing whatever. We're talking politics.
Coming to you live from Nevada, where we still haven't called the vote yet.
You mean they still haven't found a way to steal the vote yet?
What are they, you got to steal Nevada? I mean, that sounds like an Ocean's 11 plot or something.
No, it's going to be national treasure.
Ocean's 11, we're gonna steal Nevada.
Okay, it's going to be Ocean's 11, but we're gonna somehow shoehorn Nicolas Cage into this.
Shoehorn Nicolas Cage into this. He's going to steal the Declaration of Independence. We're going to use it to break into the vault where they keep all the votes, and we're going to steal Nevada. We don't need it, but we're going to steal it anyways. We've already won. We just need to steal Nevada just for good measure.
And with that, we just got Minions channel blocked.
Good. We can't let these we can't let these free will YouTube channels keep running around. They don't believe in election. They believe in free will and Kamala.
I guess America didn't want a Mamala.
Wouldn't that make y'all the Democrats? Because the Democrats try and make already have determined what the election outcome will be anyways, regardless of who votes what.
Listen, you're getting too far into the joke here, okay? You're trying to explain the joke, which makes the joke not funny. I've already called... you've already lost. I've already painted you as the weak Kamala Soyjack, and I'm already the Giga Chad. You have already lost. You can never recover from this. You're going to have to join the compilations on TikTok of people crying about losing the election.
Speaking of which, how many of those are out so far?
I just follow one YouTube channel, and he's already spit out 4 compilations of when liberals find out they lose the election.
There's not enough. I've only seen a handful of them so far, but I feel it's going to get a lot more come January.
Libs of TikTok is going to be like my prime thing to follow for the next few months.
I think I wound up on the wrong side of Facebook recently because they decided to start showing me Democrat political ideas, and I can't just pass by that. I have to argue. So it's decided, hey, he's interacting with us. He must want to see more of it.
Oh,
I blame the alligator for that. He's commenting way too much on feminist news articles.
Oh yeah, it's like alligator comment on this. No, I don't want to see that on my feed.
It's like when they have those really bad movies out on Netflix and said don't hate watch, they still make money off of it.
Yeah.
Don't
comment on it. Don't comment on it.
Yeah, don't hate play whatever that stupid Dragon Age Inquisition or whatever that is. No, Inquisition
was Velma.
Was one, whatever that is. Yeah, it was funny because people were hate watching it in the second season. People just didn't bother.
Yeah, it tanked. I think they canceled it, right? Didn't they?
They did finally cancel it. I don't know how it made it to 2 seasons. They just really wanted to push the agenda.
There's just that much hate over it that people wanted to see just how bad it was, and
just to see how bad it could keep going. Yeah. No, the trouble with the second season is the novelty of the badness just wore off.
Which show?
Velma. Where that?
The new adult animation Scooby-Doo thing.
Yeah, that abomination.
Yeah, where everything was just rich white man has small pee-pee.
And the lady who played
Velma. It was a self-insert fan fiction.
That as well.
Oh, yes.
The worst kind of fan fiction.
Yeah, and she just literally self-inserted herself into that whole thing.
Pretty much.
I mean, Velma's just a cartoon version of her in real life.
Boy, we snowballed this off into the weeds real quick. I was talking about, what was it? I can't even remember what
Nevada.
political thing I wound up seeing on Facebook there.
Nevada.
That was the issue about.
Kirby is trying to get in, but so
Let him in, let the little puffball in. Big supporter of mine.
No, he can sit outside and think about what he did.
He might be a little intellectually underqualified, but he's got the spirit.
Spirit of Jezebel.
But
Yeah, he should be on pretty soon, and so should our other person that's coming on.
no, we went from. I was going to mention something about arguing with leftists online. Then we got off into the other things. Oh, somehow Velma. Then I was going to mention, the Rings of Power fans account. That was the other thing I was going to mention. Because, like, weirdly enough, I was okay with the second season, but still, like, the Rings of Power fan account just like post a picture nearly daily of the actress that played Galadriel talking about how beautiful she is.
Oh gosh.
That's not creepy at all.
Calm down, bro.
Hey, Luke.
Hey, what's up? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I don't
This
know,
is-
but I think the cut works in the I would highlight it, but I don't have that power on this channel. I think he knows you guys, whatever his account is.
Oh gosh. It sounds like my dad. My dad says that every time Luke calls.
No, actually,
Luke.
I've actually never heard that joke in my entire life from anyone. So
I'm sure you have
Yeah.
not.
yeah, so
We're just talking about Nevada.
And it's
oh
like
really?
I'm sure it's the only joke really associated with your name, so you don't even get any diversity, do you? It's just like the
yeah, not really.
always second, and then it's just so brain dead. It's just like anytime someone talks to you, it's like I'm his father.
it's either that or lukewarm. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
That's not. Yeah, that's not really fun to joke about. Let's go back to Star Wars.
But you don't want to be spewed out.
Yeah. No, I do not.
What's the temperature of a tauntaun? Lukewarm.
What?
that was the combined Star Wars lukewarm joke.
Yep.
Well, yeah, no, it was.
Okay.
Well, so far they're
There we go.
both all Star Wars jokes. So
All right. We got Kirby now. I think we got the full cast now.
now we just need a pre-recorded laugh track.
Am I in the lobby now? Yeah, I'm in. Okay, cool. Hey,
Needs some
fellas.
good old-fashioned canned laughter.
I don't know what to do. Two people were talking at the same time, so I don't know which one to address.
I have
Choose
no
the third
idea who
option
this
and
person
acknowledge. And not sorry, I said choose the third option and acknowledge neither.
Oh, okay. Well,
Mm.
I did choose the third option, acknowledge neither, and then we had an awkward silence of like 30 seconds or so. It's bad for
How do I
viewers.
know if it's going to my page?
See him free falling.
How do you know if it's going to your page?
Yeah.
This is I don't have the advanced membership, so it only is sharing to the YouTube. I shared the link to the YouTube on my channel. That's about the only way I know how to do this.
On your channel or page?
So on my YouTube channel. So I shared the link to that on the Facebook. So
Okay. So I have to go to your page to find the link.
yes.
This is all a
Ew.
ploy to make us follow our minions on YouTube. What exactly is your YouTube name here?
It's literally the same as my Facebook.
Reformed Arminian.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, look, you've actually got subscribers. I'm jealous now. Copy link.
So,
Sorry.
all right, you're good. So, all right. Overall, how many of you guys actually predicted Trump would actually win this?
I did.
I was
Mine-
giving, I was giving him like 65 to 35 odds going.
Okay.
I wouldn't say predicted, but I was pretty confident based on just some of the rumblings of the way things are going, the sentiment I was seeing over the summer, even here in California. That like if people were starting to like not be afraid to like fly Trump flags in California, I'm like it must be even better in other states, and so that I would say predicted. I was still like on the fence, but I think what put me over the last on Sunday I think it was, or Monday, Amazon and a few other tech companies started groveling and asking for meetings with the Trump administration. They're like, okay, they must know everything because they've got the metadata, they've got all the public sentiment stuff.
Honestly,
Yeah, if I'd have known that. Oh, go ahead, Luke.
I was gonna say that's actually been the weirdest part of Trump between 2020 and 2024, is that a lot of people almost treated him like he was the president. Like he was taking meetings with foreign leaders, like he was meeting with big power players in the US, and like more than they were meeting with Biden. And so it seemed like people knew that he was kind of in charge. I don't, buy into the shadow presidency thing, but like it did seem like people kind of were taking for granted that he was on the way back in.
It kind of reminds me of a little bit of history. Grover Cleveland is the only other president who's had 2 non-consecutive terms. When Cleveland was beat, when he ran for re-election, he got beat, and they were packing up their stuff out of the White House. His wife said to the staff there, he said, "Don't move everything around too much." He said, "We'll be back in 4 years." And sure enough, he was. And people kind of saw Cleveland might return to the presidency, which actually did happen, which is not the Trump has some surprising and some interesting similarities with Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I probably the only ones that knew about Cleveland before a week ago.
I knew there was another president that was elected twice, like for separate terms. I thought it was McKinley, though.
No, he got 30 days into his second term, then someone shot him.
I knew I was mixing it up, and that's how we got Teddy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
I knew McKinley did something important.
The other thing that was interesting about the whole Cleveland 3 election scenario too was the one who the one who got that middle election was Harrison, right? Benjamin Harrison. And
Yeah.
he also was the first Republican to win by getting the electoral college, but not the popular vote. So
Well, yeah, he's the second Republican to do that. Technically, Lincoln got the electoral college vote, but did not get the popular vote.
But he had the most popular votes of anybody. Like nobody beat him in the popular vote. He had the plurality of the popular vote, not the 50%.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Barely, but yes. But yeah, it's Grover Cleveland was also from New York City. Born and raised, mayor of Buffalo, is known as the hanging judge. He was a reformer, and his chief opponent in 1884 was James G. Blaine. And the famous song by him was one of the catchiest campaign songs. Is Blaine, James G. Blaine, continental liar from the state of Maine. He was like one of the most corrupt politicians in Congress.
That's
And
Hey,
Yeah.
you might need to let Kirby back in. He was raptured and
Oh.
can't get back in without your assistance.
You there,
Yeah,
Kirby?
sorry about that. I think my internet died for a minute. I'm trying to find your video again so I can link it to the page. That's what I was trying to do.
Okay.
Yeah, there it is.
Kir-
Okay.
Kirby went the way of those 10 to 15 million Democrat voters that mysteriously showed up last year, but never
Yeah,
appeared
I
that
know,
way.
right?
Oh, that was driving me insane for the longest time that we couldn't just basically say, even suggest that the election was rigged at all without.
Yeah. Personally, I'm waiting till the final count just so that we find out exactly how many that number was, because it is gonna go down by a couple million, but they're still counting. They're only halfway through counting California. So
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering because I heard some people saying that he's going to keep the majority vote, but with California only 50% in right now, I think he may. I'm not sure if he'll keep them.
He should because the stuff that's still being counted in California, it's he's actually breaking 40% in California, which is the first Republican to do that in a long time. So that's he's not going to come close to winning, but it's enough where she shouldn't be able to overcome his popular vote differential.
Okay.
I'm honestly having a hard time believing just like how late some of these places are still counting.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
It's just like, come on, it's been 2-3 days since. 2 days since election night, and you still haven't got your crap together.
Wasn't Florida the first to come in with all the votes?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, they just need to copy paste that in every state now.
Yeah.
Well, remember,
Yeah.
Florida reformed after 2000 because they were so embarrassed about that fiasco with Gore.
Right.
Oh yeah,
And
because
so-
Al Gore's
and-
votes there.
Yeah, so they were super embarrassed, and so they, completely, this is back when people still decided to fix things when they were embarrassed. So they just completely overhauled their electoral system,
It seems
or
like
not their
Georgia
electoral
did
system,
that.
but their voting system, and now they're the fastest in the country, which is
It seems
crazy
like
too because
Georgia's
Florida is so
improved, too.
huge.
Oh yeah. I feel like some of these states do it on purpose. Like Pennsylvania, I feel like some states like Pennsylvania and Arizona almost intentionally do it because this is the time where the most amount of people actually pay attention to them. Otherwise, no one really seems to care.
Yeah,
No,
that's just
offense, Richard.
Pennsylvania in general. No, people will care about this state, when it comes to this, and maybe a couple other things. Other than that, we're just kind of forgotten. At least
Yeah.
we're not
What was that
Ohio.
What state was that? I forgot about it.
Exactly.
Oh, like Philadelphia. Like whoever talks about Philadelphia except when it's time for corrupt elections.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never really, unless you're really into sports.
I did a 4 years ago. I did a piece just before the election on just before the 2020 election. I put a piece together of how corrupt Pennsylvania and especially Philadelphian politics has been, and I'd have to dig it up. It's on the other page I have in the proof blog, and it was just like going through like how many Pennsylvanian politicians have spent like hard time in jail. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's what was I think Illinois has you beat though on that because I think they had a governor who was either running for mayor of Chicago or governor of the state from prison.
Oh, so in 2020, right before Trump left office, he pardoned a man. I think his name is Rob Blagojevich, and he was the former governor of Illinois, and he was serving time for literally selling Barack Obama's Senate seat.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean,
God.
like literally, he was like, yeah, highest bidder, man, just give me money because he was in charge of doing the governor appointmentship for the vacancy.
know,
yeah.
I would say, isn't that interesting that the media never covered that? So you said Trump pardoned him?
Yeah, because he was a Republican.
I'd say, isn't it interesting that the media never reported on Trump pardoning him? This is obviously a ploy for him to continue to rig more elections, but apparently he must be a little more involved with the powers that be.
So I think I cut out while we were going over the who predicted the win.
Yeah.
I want to hear what everybody said because I predicted the win several months ago to Charismatic Cheetah, and he called me a prophet the day of.
So I refused to allow myself to think too much about politics. It winds me right up sometimes.
Yeah.
I've been on a pretty good streak recently of not getting too wound up, but in the encountering of opposing ideas, sometimes I'm just like, how can you even think that?
Yeah.
So I didn't really think about, who's going to win until basically the night of the election, and I'm like, I think Trump's gonna win, but last time I thought Trump was gonna win, Joe won. So
Yeah.
like in 2016, I was 90% sure Hillary was gonna win because I thought there's no way. And then Trump won as over the moon. And then I thought there was no way Joe was gonna win. And then Joe won. And I was devastated. And at this point I'm like, I don't know which way it's gonna go, but I really pray that it
I was
Yeah.
not expecting to win in 2016. I remember watching live. What'd you say, Redbeard?
No, nothing. I accidentally put my hand too close to the mic and it was feeding
Oh.
back.
Yeah, there was an echo. Go ahead.
I was saying I was thinking he was going to lose in almost, except for this most recent one. I predicted that he was going to win, and so far from the map, everything except Michigan I predicted pretty accurately. But the last one, I thought he was going to lose to Joe Biden because me and my dad were talking, and it's like, oh, no, Bernie Sanders is the bigger threat. Joe Biden, he'll just tell him, oh, go to bed, Sleepy Joe, and and people will laugh, and I'm like, no. People really don't like him, and Joe Biden is just far enough to the right of these weirdo leftists that people might actually vote for him. I did not see 2016. I think I was with you, Luke, when with the live party when they were projecting every single state, and that was like the craziest experience because I was expecting Hillary Clinton to win.
Well, that was such an educational experience for us too, because we were with a lot of college Republicans who were all poli-sci majors, and so I don't know if you can even find this anymore. Like, they may have changed their reporting, but I remember at the time, like, within these swing states, they would post like county by county results as they came in.
Yeah.
And so you would have guys who were like tracking each individual county. And then, like, I remember eventually it became clear that like the urban counties were being depressed, like, you know, not having good turnout. And then Trump won after that.
Yeah, I remember when they did Florida because they were doing the county by county on the map with Florida, and they had counted the rest of Florida, and it was a very close race, but they hadn't counted the Panhandle yet. I'm like, oh,
yes, you're right.
Oh,
yes,
he
that's
might
right.
actually win this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it was so surreal that he was running. It was almost surprising that he won anything. Like, there was a part of me that almost thought he would just get swept because you're like, this is no way this will actually happen. And then, like, at 3 a.m. they announced it.
I think a big part of Trump's 2016 win was actually just how much people did not like Hillary.
Yes. That's important.
Like, I underestimated how much people just did not like Hillary. Because, I mean, her husband's last presidency did end in impeachment there. Well, it didn't end in impeachment, but I think he was being impeached while he was on his way out.
Yeah, they tried him.
They basically the same thing as Trump, except I think his was done with maybe a year and a half left in his presidency, so it was like a lame duck 18 months or so.
So real quick, just sound off from left to right, top to bottom. Who predicted a win out of everybody?
I did.
Okay, Arminian did.
I was feeling like one. I won't say predicted.
Okay, you were hesitant. Redbeard?
I was hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. I almost expected them to pull something shady this time.
Well, I think everybody did. So, okay, hesitant, hopeful. Luke, what about you?
I gave Trump 2-1 odds.
Really? Against him?
No, like, in his favor. Like, I would say probably like 65 to 35 chance.
Okay, and
it was like, for like in a logical state of outcome, I would have picked Trump, like if the people's vote was heard. But if something rigging was occurred, I expected a lot more rigging actually than 2020. So
yeah, I did too.
I would say ultimately I did not.
Yeah, the votes being normal this year was a surprise.
Yeah,
it was an extreme surprise. I was expecting more. Honestly, my thoughts were I was thinking Trump was going to get more votes than he did in 2020 because he got more votes in 2020 than he did in 2016.
And he
But
still might.
it just completely went over
Yeah,
the
he
top.
still might.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying, like when we were talking earlier before I got here, California's only half counted, and Trump has 4 million. So if that other half comes in at another 4 million, that's going to put him above 20's numbers.
Are you
So,
kidding me? California is only half counted still?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were
What is
talking about this
wrong with
earlier,
y'all?
Herbie.
They're
I
trying
know,
to
like
figure out how they
California's
can-
half counted. They haven't called Nevada yet. They haven't called Arizona yet. I haven't tuned into the dividing line recently. I wonder how James White feels about that.
the balance of the House is basically weighing in on how they can squeeze a couple more seats out of California. And
The other thing to
Arizona.
keep in mind with California too is, do you guys remember a couple years ago when a bunch of liberal states signed, like they all passed into law something called like the popular vote? I forget what it was
Yeah.
called, but it was some sort of initiative. They all passed these laws, like California did, New York did, Oregon, Washington, several others too, where it was like, they were like wanting to posture about Trump winning, like Trump losing the popular vote while still winning the electoral college. So they passed these laws saying that they would assign their electoral college votes, regardless of their own citizens' vote, to whoever won the national popular vote.
I had heard about this only just today, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
So like, what's funny is like if Trump wins in popular, he'll get like a 520 sweep in the electoral, or not five. No, close to that, like 520 in the electoral college, and so.
That's
Even
ridiculous.
If win, they might just steal enough just so like that doesn't have to happen, because that would be humiliating.
I don't even expect them to actually follow through with that law this time, just out of spite. Like,
just the thing on that law, it has an out for them, in that it doesn't go into effect unless more than 270 electoral votes worth of states sign on to it, or something like that.
Well, if that's the case, I think Maine might actually be in the group of people that just decided to award it to the popular vote there.
Yeah, they're trying to set it up similar to. They're basically running it like you would run a constitutional amendment, where you need a certain number of states to pass it before they all agree to go with it, and that's their out, so that they don't have to do it this year or any other year when.
Well, yeah, because
virtue
conservative
signaling.
states ever going to sign on to that.
Yeah.
And they had to know that.
And even if it does sign on, I think that might be challenged in a court. Regardless, I feel that's a very unconstitutional law.
Well, also, like Congress, I think has the authority to just override that because it's a federal election.
Well, there's a lot of things that California is doing. I sent out a tweet earlier today, actually tagging Ron Paul and Elon and a couple other senators and such, basically saying they need to investigate the California Air Resource Board, because that organization is doing a lot of stuff that's affecting interstate commerce, and that's a straight violation of Congress's role. Like, nobody delegated this authority to them. They just come up with these rules, and then they have like 10 other states that say, "Oh, we'll do whatever the CARB says," and it's like, yeah, that's no, Congress didn't say you could do that. So
yeah, I see that in a couple different ways. Funny you say CARB, that kind of triggered, because I am a mechanic. The air regulations that they impose specifically on catalytic converters, I think that's the board that came up with those standards in the first place, which doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But also, I think I remember there was a short that I watched from Reason TV talking about the city of Los Angeles or some other city in California only allowing like bids from companies to do like their city work from states that agreed with them politically. So
Heard of something similar like that.
If you get a company they're based out of Florida and they're willing to make your trash cans, even if they are a left-leaning company, they can't accept a bid for them at all.
yeah, I've seen some of that nonsense too.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. I only remember it vaguely, but I remember something about that. So
So
how
what-
close do you- what's that?
Go ahead. It's your channel.
I was gonna move to the next question, to the next thing. So
I was. Yeah. Go ahead.
okay, I was gonna say, how close were your predictions? So I was fearful that they were going to try and pull something this election, but I was pretty sure, assuming they didn't just sign up all the illegals and give them a voting and just drop a bunch of ballots in, the actual results was actually pretty similar to what I expected. My state, North Carolina, were a lot closer than I was originally thinking. I was thinking 51, 52% for Trump. Virginia, New Mexico, and Minnesota, though, were very surprising, where Trump got like 46, 47% in those states, which was a bit surprising. I don't know if you guys looked at the percentage of that or what you guys predicted.
One.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. You're good.
I was just gonna say we're all too polite. My thought was, like I said, I was a bit optimistic. It's pretty close to what I was expecting the map to be. I was not expecting it to be this early, though. I was expecting a bit more of a fight, especially in Pennsylvania and Michigan, and Arizona. I mean, I know Arizona still want to fight, but like I said, AP hasn't called it. A couple other places have called it. So I was expecting a closer. I wasn't expecting some of the we're seeing 52-48 in a couple of these battleground states, and I'm like, that's not even a battleground at that point. That's a win. So
yeah.
It went about like I thought, just because Trump has never done that well in any polls, even in 2016. And so I figured he would probably win the states he did. I think the biggest surprise of the night, you were talking about Virginia. Virginia actually ended up, I mean, it was closer than we thought it would be, but it ended up being close to 5 as far as the spread goes for Kamala winning. I think the bigger surprise was that Trump came within less than 5 in New Jersey. That was the biggest part of it that got me. Actually, same in Illinois. I think Trump lost Illinois by possibly less than 5 or right around 5.
Let's see.
Which again is crazy. Like if New Jersey was ever seriously competitive, that would reshape the map entirely.
Yeah, Kamala Harris at this point got 53%, but in New Jersey she got 51 and Trump got 46.
Okay, so right at 5 then. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. A friend of mine, Lucas at Method Ministries, he's up in New Jersey, and he was talking about, I was like, this is much closer than it should be in New Jersey. He said, New Jersey, given another election, this could be a swing state, is what he was saying about New Jersey.
Well, New Jersey has more electoral college votes than I realized. They have 14.
14.
Yeah.
Well, that's because they're a suburb of Philly on one side and the suburb of New York on the other. They're completely packed on the north and south ends. So
it's basically like a suburb that runs itself.
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing, at Philadelphia. The other thing that was kind of surprising too was just how, in New York, right? Yeah, he lost, but I think he got like a 4 or 5 points better than Democrats and Republicans usually do in the statewide.
Well, if I remember correctly, I think Trump actually came closer to winning New York than Kamala did to Florida. If I remember how the numbers came out.
58-44 in New York, and then 56-43. So yes, you are correct.
I was kind of expecting I was actually expecting the Harris to actually poll worse in New York, given the governor's election in 2022 when Kathy McCall got like 53% of the vote, and the Republican got like 46, almost 47% of the vote. I was almost expecting something similar to that. So I was actually thinking she would get a little less than she ended up getting. I don't know if you guys remember that one.
It is just straight weird to me exactly how blue the Northwest is. Northeast is.
Both.
In fact, like this is you can kind of just see a large disparity between like places with major cities and places with like lots of countryside,
Mhm.
because that's ultimately kind of what this boils down to. Is like, is the countryside population big enough to overwhelm the major city of it?
I think that's kind of what happened in my state of Georgia. I was looking at the county percentages, and I mean, it's almost the exact same. Like the county I currently reside in, it's like last election, he got Biden got like 67.3, and this election it's 67.1. It's like very small, extremely marginal differences of percentages. But all the counties in the countryside of my state that are extremely conservative, it was like maybe 1 or 2% higher. That was consistently across these counties. And I think that's what did it for Georgia, was the turnout for the red areas was a little higher. Because otherwise, I mean, the percentage, like the amount that Trump lost by, you know, all the whole thing about Fulton County aside, well, that's, you know, however you want to look at that. The percentages that Biden won was like 49%, and Trump won it by 50.8%. It's like very small differences. And I think the rural areas turning out a little higher percentages across the state is what flipped it. I don't think Atlanta played a part in it.
Like, if anything, looking at these maps over the last few years has just kind of reinforced my feelings that we definitely need the Electoral College. Like, even necessarily if for some reason cities just all of a sudden started voting Republican, and you know this map was reversed and it was just like land coverage that won Kamala the thing. It's just like, I still think it is important, because if not, we've got 3 cities in California, New York City, Chicago, and maybe Milwaukee just deciding, or in Houston, Texas, and Dallas, Texas, just deciding what to do with it, the rest of the entire landmass.
Well,
and you know, a solution to a problem inside a city is not the solution to a problem in the countryside. Like, theoretically, you could almost understand the mindset of gun control inside a city, because there's a cop every block or two at max. But in a countryside, when you're 45 minutes away from your local police department or something, there's no way that even is feasible.
Well, I think there's that, but there's also the fact that the Electoral College is meant to protect the rest of the whole country, because, you know, the idea of our republic was not just majority, because our founding fathers hated the idea of democracy. That was not really their intention, and they hated that. It was the idea of protecting the minority. What happens to the minority when the majority agree to do something? You know, there's rights regardless of how you vote. But I think one of the other things that it unintentionally would do, which was I had to teach on the Federalists versus Anti-Federalists, and I was going over the primary sources for this. And the Electoral College and this whole thing was actually one of the things that was brought up by, I can't remember if it was James Wilson or Charles Cotworth Pinckney of South Carolina, who brought this up about the fact that the Constitution won't do away with the sovereignty of the states, because, and one of the arguments he makes is the states choose the delegates to the Electoral College, not individual peoples, but it's left to the states, which reinforces the fact that these states are still sovereign. And that was actually one of the arguments for ratifying the Constitution, was that the Electoral College was actually a defense of the sovereignty of the states.
All right, I'm going to butt in here while there's a quiet point, because I was trying to bring this up during the map part, but I couldn't get a word in edgewise. I'm currently looking at the map of Pennsylvania, just looking at how the votes are spread out. Like, obviously around Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Erie, along the New Jersey coast, obviously it's more favored towards Kamala. I'm just surprised some of the counties up near New York City voted red, voted for Trump. But
Like
once the outlaws-
Susquehanna and places like that.
Well, Staten Island.
see Wayne County, Pennsylvania, Pike County, Pennsylvania, they're the ones that are like right next, are basically just suburbs of New York City.
Oh wow. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
68% and 61%. Of course, I expected
Wow.
around Harrisburg to vote blue, but then Center County, out of all of them, for some reason, in the middle of the state, voted for Kamala Harris. Like, there's
Interesting.
nothing
Huh.
up in Center County, but yet they voted blue.
Well, that's where Penn State is at, right? So it's all the
Ah,
State
that
College
explains
kids.
that. I knew Penn State was somewhere, but I didn't know it was up there.
and even that was it's still just a little under 2,000 separated them. So it's but
No.
on your point too about the counties in northeastern Pennsylvania, part of that too, right? That's where Joe is from. He's from Lackawanna County, which did go blue, but the counties all it barely blue. The counties all surrounding that are red. And then if you look, like when you tap over the New Jersey, northern New Jersey is red, and then New York, just in that gap between New York City and Albany, has a band of red there as well. And the other thing, I think maybe someone was saying it, but Staten Island and Nassau County and Suffolk County, which is the eastern half of Long Island, red. Oh, you've got it on the screen.
Yeah,
it's now.
I threw it in there, and I was gonna ask him once you were done.
All right, well,
Right.
one thing I noticed that's actually was kind of concerning is in 2020, my county, it was like 94% voted for Trump. This year, it was only like 71.2. So
Hmm.
even though Trump won, my county with a great lead, it went down.
I'll say this.
I got a theory on why, but I don't want to say it right now because it might come across as wrong.
Is it because people are fleeing these blue main cities here because they can't afford them and moving into your place and voting the same way they did?
Little bit of that. Let's just say over the past 4 years, I've gotten a lot more foreign coworkers.
Yeah, that was next.
A lot
That
more
was
what?
next on the list. Oh, let's just say he suspects a few more of his voters come from like this region here.
Where they're eating the dogs and they're eating the cats.
Well, that would be this region like further here.
What was weird is actually click on the map of Texas real quick. Okay, a lot of those, you see that area of South Texas? A lot of those counties are 70, 80% Hispanic. And except for a handful of them, almost like all of them went for Trump. These are like majority Hispanic counties where the main language of conversation is, and you hear out in public, the signs and everything are in Spanish.
Yeah,
and
that was actually that was actually a big change that happened in 2020. Like a lot of people noticed in Texas in 2020 because the total in Texas in 2020 was roughly the same vote tally as it was in 2016, but the counties were different because all these counties along the border went hard for Hillary, and then they flipped to Trump in 2020. But then all of the college counties, Austin and those areas went equally hard for Biden. So it was like they completely balanced the youth in the college area of Texas completely balanced out the flipping of the Mexican vote down along the border counties.
And since we're talking about
I've heard
youth
about.
and-
Sorry. go
did
ahead.
you want to go ahead or?
I was going to say, like, the thing that I remember from 2020 was that the analysis was that Trump kept Texas was because the Hispanics voted in higher percentages for Trump. And that was the only reason he kept Texas.
Yeah, I remember that because that's the time when they had started trying to go from Latino to Latinx.
Oh gosh.
And like it was largely, I believe at that time they started to revert a little bit just because how much shock they got from Hispanic voters starting to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you mentioned college counties, because I think that's another thing that has kind of just started to a big thing that went in Trump's favor this cycle is finding like the college county to be a little more split, because previously it's just like, oh, they're a young person, they're going to vote for the Democratic candidate. But now we had a large wave, and it was covered quite a bit in the pre-election talks and everything, of just all of a sudden the young men no longer voting for Kamala and starting to vote for Trump.
Well, also keep in mind, this is something else I was talking to my
Hey.
wife about this morning on that, was that a lot of the young college age kids today, the people that their first time eligible to vote, right, the 18 to 21 year olds, never voted before, they're the ones whose high school years got royally screwed up by the COVID process and the COVID situation. These are the kids who didn't get to graduate, didn't get to march because their liberal governors or liberal mayors or whatever said, oh no, you've got to stay locked down for everything. So, there's a lot to what's going on. And then of course, Trump had a big partnership with, Charlie Kirk's Turning Point organization, who was all over the campuses, just doing like lots of groundwork and facing lots of hostile crowds too, and basically winning people on simple bravado of saying, yeah, you're willing to stand up to these crowds. Okay. I like you. So,
and I think that might be another general thing among college age men, is just seeing a lot of their opportunities for college and potential scholarships for them taken away and given to more diverse people that check a few more boxes, like the whole affirmative action thing. I think that probably factored into it quite a bit. Along with, go ahead.
I think there's that, but also I think the feminists and a lot of these other progressive groups have really pushed the envelope too far, that they're really getting real backlash with a lot of guys who are going in the anti-feminist direction. Like, I think like the transgender stuff and the homosexuality stuff, they've pushed it so far. Like this year, and I think the year before that, it was the first time in 60 years that I think the percentage of young people who support gay marriage actually decreased. I think they have pushed it so far that they have alienated a lot of people. And I think men especially are really pushing back against that compared to, women. Now, I think the election has shown one thing, which is the hatred of white women might have been a little overblown when it's like, what, 50?
Yeah, no kidding.
No, it's like in the
7% of them voted Republican this year.
It was like 69% of white women or something voted for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for like all the talk of interracial machismo from Trump or whatever, I mean, like white women outvoted Hispanic men by like a margin of 20 points. I mean, like, happy to appeal to everyone. Like, we have to be real about who's voting for who.
Yeah, I think it was quite interesting also to because I know in a lot of the outrage videos that I'm watching, people are blaming, a lot of the African American women were blaming white women specifically for their troubles. I would be interested, I don't know if this information out there exists, but to see like what percentage of white women that voted red versus blue were in relationships.
Yeah.
Because I know that can be a big factor that influences political votes. I mean, we look at Solomon, his entire policies changed because of his wives. And I think might be easier, especially for women, to change a political view based on where their support is coming from. Like a single woman, primarily her support would be coming from a governmental authority, so she's going to vote for something that gives bigger government, where if her support is coming from a man who's paying taxes and he doesn't want to be paying as much taxes, he's going to be...
Well, I did see that.
Well, you also got to think about the weak guys who just follow their girlfriends.
Yeah, I mean,
as well, like my cousin has a very, 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 very liberal wife, and before they got married, like I didn't even consider him politically literate. Like I didn't think not that he's stupid, just that he doesn't care. And now it's like I'm pro-abortion. Like this country is a crap hole. Immediately right after the election, even though he lives in Colorado for obvious reasons.
I mean, I think a lot of that comes down to, number one, the type of men who don't have a very strong opinion on like elections probably also are the type of men who aren't going to be seen as generally masculine enough to attract a girlfriend. Because even liberal women will confess that they want a man who has more conservative qualities. They just don't want the conservatism that's attached with that.
Right.
They want a man. At the end of the day, they still want a man who pays for stuff, who's a gentleman, who, he's the guy paying for dates. They want someone who makes more money than them. So at the end of the day, those type of men usually tend to vote red.
Right, and then there's also the moving spectrum, because seeing the news and especially these pieces out in the newspapers of women, because they don't change. A lot of women the average single woman is traditionally making more money than the average single man. The average woman is also going to college and graduating at higher rates than men. But the thing is, their standards don't change. They still expect their men to make more than them. But even though they're making a tremendously much higher proportion than the average male, for example, it's kind of like really tall girls who wear high heels anyways, but still expect the guy to be taller than them. It's kind of like unfair here. And
one thing with like female careers, and I think that this is something that me and my wife learned, is like most of these jobs that tend to attract a lot of women. So, speech is, we're talking nursing. These sorts of jobs have higher floors but lower ceilings when it comes to pay. So, like, most jobs will pay less than a female job after college, but, like, the woman will continue to experience raises, whereas the man's career will grow. And so, by, like, your 40s, the guy facing, but the problem is, like, nobody wants to wait till they're 40 to get married. Yeah, I mean, like, it is a screwed up dynamic. Part of it is that, like, women aren't as aggressive. They're not going to really throw themselves at the career arc the way. But yeah, it does mess with the marriage environment. So I mean, there's no way around that unless something changes.
Something that I would encourage, like anyone who wants to dig more into that particular subject, there is a creator that I would like to shout out on YouTube. Sorry to take attention away from you, Reformed Arminian, but the creator's name is actually Homath. The creator's name is Homath, for those who didn't catch that.
H-O-E math?
H-O-E math.
Okay.
He does provide somewhat of a balanced opinion for everything. I don't know how Christian he would lean or whatever, but I think he does go a lot into especially the breakdowns of like female thought in America and breaking down kind of what you see among the more extremes of women. You see it in the extremes, but then also moderately. Every woman has some amount of this. And another thing that I like about his channel is not also just strictly a woman bad channel. It's this is what they want. It's okay for them to want this to some capacity. I mean, obviously it needs to be tempered by some reason, but it's okay for them to want that. And you need to kind of grow in yourself to be able to be more masculine in order to.
Yeah, I'd say you have to be careful with some of those channels because I've seen some of them and they are a little addictive to watch some of them. But you got to be careful with watching those stuff because you see these women who are over the top because a lot of women are not like this, but the ones who are very noticeable and very out in the camera, and it's very easy to be what's the word I'm looking for? It's hard. It's easy to get disheartened. It's easy to become angry, just in general, at people, at women, for example. And a lot of women are not like this. You get
Yeah,
unfair image
it's the principle of the
women are
squeaky
like.
wheel gets the oil.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like watching these. Also, same thing that I was talking about. I don't know if it actually made it in the stream, but watching the when liberals find out that Trump got elected videos there. It's like all liberals are not like this.
Right.
We are seeing the extreme, and like movements kind of get to be known by their extremes. And obviously not every movement, not every people group is the worst of that people group. And they're obviously not all the best of that people group. There's a spectrum that exists between there. And you need to know that some on the extremes, that some level of thought from those extremes usually is throughout the movement there. But also the movement doesn't always take the level of thought to that extreme.
Right. It's like when you watch the Whatever podcast, which is always fun to watch, these feminists who are, to be fair.
Oh man, yeah.
They're ditzies. It's fun to watch them get destroyed, but you also it's also not fair to have, some of these guys are,
what's it? Freedom Tunes. I don't know if anyone's seen the Freedom Tunes video on the Whatever podcast there. It's just like that forever ruined like any clip of the Whatever podcast for me. It's just because this is just that. It's just them sitting there, stupid.
Yeah, they find the ditziest women on OnlyFans so that they can advertise their OnlyFans. That's all really. Yeah. And to trash them in a political debate. That's really what
trash.
Congratulations.
You trash the OnlyFans girl who has no idea who her father even is.
Yeah.
And then you dragged in Gorlock the Destroyer. That one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. But if you watch Whatever and you start to think this is what the average woman is like, you're going to come away with a very this is like not. I'm missing my words here, but this is not what the average woman is like. I'm not. I'll say 90%, 95% of women are not like that because it's like slept with like 150 different men, and people just in general sleeping around is a pretty bad problem nowadays. And women, I think, now outdo men with the amount of people they sleep with, but the average woman is not sleeping around with 150 guys.
Yeah, it's also very interesting because I think gender-wise, we usually tend to think or at least I know we used to think of sleeping around as like the thing that men do. Is like, men have given the opportunity to stop at nothing to get a woman into bed with them. I think really what we've kind of found in the newer age of dating is that it is, that 20% of men that are just absolutely drowning in the amount of attention that they get from women. And then because those 20% of men are so prominent, they're like the top 20%, they're making six figures, they're, built, they're super confident in everything, and they know how to run women. Because of that creates problems in a lot of women because those men don't want to sit down and settle down with one woman. Why would they? They don't have much incentive to.
Right.
And then so they ruin a whole bunch of women, and then those women think all men are like this, and then the men think all women are like the amount of women they see complaining on TikTok about the 20% of men.
And to tie this back into what we were talking about earlier, I think for both directions, I think this has influenced the way young men and young women have been voting, with the number of men who are voting Republican, who are identifying more conservative, has actually increased, and the amount of women identifying as progressive or liberal and voting Democrat has also increased. And I think this might be part of it, is these misconceptions of women start thinking because these top 15, 20% of men are this way, that all men are like this, and they become even harder in their feministic views, while men who aren't getting anything from women, but they're seeing all these essentially prostitutes who don't represent the majority of women, and they become extremely hardened by this against a lot of women. Where you get feminists, it's very obvious. It kind of comes with the ideology that you have to be a man hater, but you are also, I think, seeing a number of guys who are, I mean, when it comes down to it, like genuinely hate women with some of these guys.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things. I think that's one of the dangers that feminism has created, because the term misogynist has just become a catch-all phrase. That when actual misogyny arises and you throw the term misogynist at it, it doesn't have the same effect anymore. It's like,
well, neither does being called a racist either. I mean,
yeah,
the media has been lying. The media has been lying non-stop, probably even before 2015 and 2016. We just don't necessarily know because we weren't paying attention. But like, one of the things about Trump that I really enjoy is that he actually eyes to how bad the media was. Because I bought into the lie about the grab him by the you know what word. You know, that whole thing back then in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to vote for Trump. I didn't want to do it. And then come election day, I hadn't voted. I hadn't registered. And then I'm watching the election with my parents, and I'm like, yes, he won. And then in 2017, I'm like, okay, what did I miss? What's going on with this guy? And all these lies pop up one after another, and I'm just like, wow, it really is fake news. And the entire election cycle this time around, like excluding Biden, like I don't even consider him a candidate anymore in this election. But like Kamala's entire attack against Trump wasn't about his policies. It was always about him, always lies about him that the media picks up, you know, like the Project 2025, blah, 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 blah. And like, it's just, they only have lies run on.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the entire campaign was just, he's a racist, homophobic, woman-hating Nazi. And unfortunately,
Who's going to
heard those
institute Project
terms too many
2025? Over and
And
over,
it's-
they said, my cousins kept saying, oh, he's going to do Project 2025. And he's like, no, I have my own agenda. I didn't even want to read it.
Okay, so what's funny about that though
It's
is now that Trump's
ridiculous.
won the election, he's like back in contact with John McEntee. So he like might actually do Project 2025.
Who is that? I'm
well-
not sure who that is.
Okay, so John McEntee's the guy in
Does he
charge of
work for the
Project
Heritage
2025.
Foundation?
No, McEntee's in charge
Oh,
of
okay.
Project 2025. That's like his thing. So like you have
Okay.
to know too with Project 2025 is I was actually made aware of that through a friend of mine who I think kind of knew those people before it was kind of more publicly known. And Project 2025 did have like an agenda for the administration, which is what everyone latched on to. But the heart of Project 2025 wasn't the agenda. It was their, you know, so John McEntee had sort of realized that one of Trump's big flaws in 2016, and it wasn't all Trump's fault, he was just new to the game, is like he just didn't have a lot of good staffing picks for all these administrative spots. And so the point of Project 2025, more than the agenda, was to create a staffing list so that if Trump won, he would have a reliable pool of talent to hire from.
That's important.
Yeah, so like Trump might not have been lying. Like I don't know if Trump's actually all that interested in like doing all the stuff on the agenda, but I think Trump might actually avail himself of that staffing list.
I'll tell you that project. That Project 2025. I'm like still know very little about it because literally I didn't hear about it until I started seeing the, ads treating it like a boogeyman, but they never explained what it was. And I'm like, thankfully, the Pilgrim Paladin sent me a link to it where I could actually read up on it. It's just I got to take the time to actually read up on it.
Yeah.
Right, it's like several pages long.
I still haven't read it either, and everything I've ever heard about it, like if they release it ever talk about it, it's either they talk about it factual and like that doesn't sound so bad, or it's just all of a sudden Project 2025 wants to kill women. And I'm like, I don't think think anyone's put that in a manifesto.
Why would he kill
One thing-
women? Like 50-something% of them voted for him.
The thing that's like fascinating about the coverage of Project 2025 and whatever the link may or may not exist, right, is how they don't talk one bit that it's a conspiracy theory if you mention the World Economic Forum and their links to the Democrat organization. And it's like, have you seen what they want to do? I know some of you guys have. I'm not asking, but she was like, have you seen what they want to do? It's like it's crazy. Why don't you talk about that? Why aren't we talking about what WEF wants to do? And it's like no, Project 2025. It's like, how about you have the extreme right wing 2025 project. You have the extreme left wing WEF, and let's put them in a cage match and see what.
Is World Economic Forum also a think tank?
I mean,
it's like an outgrowth of the UN. I think it's a way, if I remember correctly, the World Economic Forum is supposed to like coordinate credit access to the third world, more or less, but also like kind of regulate
credit access
between countries. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, it's like
isn't that the organization that has the guy that basically said where everyone jokes about you will eat the bugs?
Yeah.
German
guy.
Some like German guy.
To
Klaus
has
Schwab
to be a German guy. That or a Russian.
So basically a Bond villain.
I mean, like he dresses like a Bond villain. He wears like this cape every time.
Just Google Klaus Schwab, and he looks exactly like a Bond villain.
Some of it, he almost looks like Mr. Evil.
Dr. Evil?
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Evil.
$100 million.
But the thing is that it's not just like, it's not just a bunch. I mean, one of the main people that spoke there is, the King of England. I mean, he went there and he spoke about, we need a global marshal to save it's too big to for one country to handle. We need the whole country, we need the whole world, we need one person to lead the world and control all everything. It's what then Prince Charles was saying at the WEF. And it's like, well, now he's in charge of one of the most powerful countries in the world.
Well, sort of. I mean, Charles has about as much power as I don't know.
It's very minuscule.
But at the same time,
it's a glorified ornament.
At the same time, you got to remember that everybody, every police and military in England, in the UK, and to this day still in Canada and Australia, swears loyalty to the crown, not to any constitution. Not their oath of loyalty is to the crown. So if they really wanted to, propaganda it up and get that power back under the king, they could.
I think you need a large dissatisfaction with current events under the British people, because I feel like in order to actually enact change, people need to be really unhappy. And this is kind of what you see with like any coups or takeovers in government, like
July
in Russia, like prior to the Russian Revolution, in Germany prior to certain parties taking over. When people need to want change, and they need to want change enough to move to an extreme. Like you see this kind of in the first Russian Revolution, the one right before communism, where Nicholas gives the people enough to placate them, and then kind of takes that power away, and he remains in charge for a little while until World War I strikes. And then when World War I strikes, people start losing I mean, Russia starts losing World War One, and you know, you got Rasputin, and
Sure.
I mean, what's his name? He's left. Basically, the Tsar leaves his wife, his German wife, and Rasputin back at the place. Well, Rasputin's not really in charge, but he's hanging around the queen a lot, and people are kind of sus about
Hey, I
that.
just real quick, we gained a seat in the house.
Oh, we gained a seat in the house.
Yeah, Google just updated and called a seat.
Nice.
So we need 7 more.
Sweet.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
as
sorry,
I
go
was
ahead.
as I was saying, kind of, he left his German wife and a crazy bearded homeless man in charge of the country while he went and lost a war. And that's kind of what started to spiral him out of control of his own country.
We'll say, I
And-
think in the case of Britain, it would need to be different because it wasn't always so much that they were just not happy. It's that people will do things when they're desperate. That's what got the National Socialists into power. Is not that people weren't happy. No one was happy with the government, the constitution that they had under the Weimar Republic. No one really liked it. It was the fact that people were desperate after the stock market crash, and then on top of that, you had communist uprisings.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
the
Berlin
Fri-
was like the reddest city in Europe outside of Russia.
Yeah, I mean, like with the German cities, they would have to rent out the Freikorps, which is these roving bands of veterans who would go around the city, and cities would pay them to put down communist revolutions. People were desperate; they couldn't feed their home, they couldn't feed their children. They
Yeah,
couldn't
it
afford
was.
bread. I mean,
If you
it's-
really look at it, it's the Treaty of Versailles that wound up creating the Nazi movement.
yeah,
Just
you
because
have that.
it was so harsh on the German people, and then you also had France coming in, taking
But it was
control of
Austria's fault.
Germany's economic output and essentially murdering some Germans.
Yeah, well, you have that. You have Saarland, which was given to the Germans, but all the mines of its productive capacity was given to France. The Rhineland was overseen by the League of Nations, but which meant basically the French oversaw it. They took a huge portion of East Prussia, gave it to the Poles. They had the Polish corridor. They got the city of Danzig was seen by the League of Nations, and a lot of their stuff was taken over either by the Poles or the French. Their overseas colonies were given to the Japanese, to the British, to the Australians. It was national humiliation. They were not allowed to have tanks and all these other things, and their army had to be smaller than all of their neighbors, including Czechoslovakia, of all people. I mean, so you have desperation, humiliation, resentment, anger, poverty, starvation, and these make it possible for kind of revolutions to take place. I think in the case of England, what you have though is them massively importing the third world, especially Muslims, is a way to and giving them the right to vote is what is I think in some ways stifling any kind of real uprising, because they'll never lose power because they keep importing new voters who will vote for the party and for the candidates who will keep them in charge. So I don't see that changing anytime soon, especially with the Labor government, because as bad as the Conservatives are, the Labor seem to be even worse. But the solution obviously isn't to vote for the Conservatives, because the Conservatives are the ones who got this woke nonsense in the first place. So I'm not sure what the British are going to do, but they just seem really screwed. I mean, as bad as things have been here in the United States, I think England I don't know if there is any turning back from England, because there's not enough pushback there. I don't know what to
Honestly,
do.
and this is
It's
I make
scary.
a joke about it almost every time I like interact with a sarcastic Christian or any Canadians or whatever. So basically every meme stash. But just a joke that some of y'all didn't fight for your freedom, and it shows. And you can
Yeah.
kind of still trace that throughout American thought, is because we staged an entire war for our independence, for our right to have a say in how our taxes are spent, or at least that's what's remembered of it. And you see
Also,
that
real
at the
quick,
end of the
I would
day
just-
still permeate our thought.
I would just like to give a little bit of a funny thing with the election. So if you take a look on Google, you can see that Like if you show all states, I just want to point out Robert F. Kennedy Jr. dropped out of the race, and he still got more votes than Chase Oliver for the Libertarian Party. I
He
think
ticked
that's
off his own.
absolutely hilarious.
Well, the funny thing is, he ticked off his own people in that the chair of the Libertarian Party was talking with Trump. Yeah, we had pictures of her like a few days before the election, meeting with Trump, talking about making agreements and arrangements. The chair of the Mises Caucus, which is the one who took over the party but weren't able to secure the nominee, we're also meeting with them. The guys who were running for president for the LP endorsed Trump. Famous podcasters like Tom Woods, Dave Smith, and a bunch of other like really big name libertarians. I think the channel Being Libertarian, which has a couple million followers, the Redhead Libertarian, basically everyone who wasn't a woke leftist libertarian all like either voted for or outright endorsed Trump because Chase Oliver is just
He's a weenie.
He's a woke moron. And his biggest issue is transing the kids, and he was pushing the whole distance and the vaccine and all this.
Yeah.
How are you
the
gonna do
Mises
that as
Caucus
a
didn't win
libertarian?
is beyond me. Right? Yeah. Like how the Mises Caucus didn't take over the party and just run it like crazy.
So they did.
It's amazing.
They did about 2 years ago. They got 2/3. They replaced almost everyone in head. But the national convention for electing the presidential nominee is different. And so it's a much larger convention. So you have people from all over the country pouring in. And so there was that, and there was a bit of a betrayal. The guy who ended up becoming the VP for the candidate for the LP ticket was said months in advance. He said, yeah, listen, if I don't get in the top 4, I'll drop out and endorse essentially the Mises Caucus candidate. And they asked him, and he kept reaffirming it up to 30 minutes before he dropped out. But Chase Oliver offered him the VP candidacy. And so instead, he turned his back on them and endorsed Chase for that. So that was the whole.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, to betray someone over a VP candidacy that you're never going to get. Because libertarians may win an election in America, but it is not for at least another 20, 30 years at this point, I would say. I mean,
well, I think
libertarians hate libertarians.
I know. It's because libertarians all want to like leave some, they all disagree on one policy, and that's the end all be all of whatever. I remember watching.
Yeah.
I remember watching like a libertarian debate, a highlight of a libertarian debate, and they're like, "Do you think people should have driver's licenses?" No. One guy says yes, and they all boo him.
That sounds like the
2000 licenses is the end all. You can't be our country if you're required to have a driver's license.
That sounds like the 2012 primary.
Forever.
Anyways, I need to get moving. I get my wife waiting on me. I've gone about 20 minutes longer than I wanted to. So I will see you guys later. Thanks for the discussion.
All right. See you, Gnostic.
See ya.
I will say the funniest one was the 2016 primary with Gary Johnson, when they had he was on the stage and they were debating among the libertarians, and he said, and some old lady asked him and said that, something about pot and smoking pot, and it will cause like heart attacks and stuff like that. And like 2 seconds later, Gary Johnson goes like, and then collapse over on stage.
Like for real?
Yeah, he was joking. He was making fun of her. She's like, as soon as you smoke it, it'll give you like a heart attack or something, and he fakes a heart attack on stage.
Wow.
I think as far as like libertarian,
what's
in the future, I think RFK has really paved the way for what that looks like.
Yeah.
Because RFK, he wasn't ever going to win, but he had a pretty dedicated voter base of like 3 to 4%, probably 3% as far as like really dedicated. But RFK, because he is a Kennedy, and he was politically realistic enough to say, like, look, I'm never going to win, but I can more or less just auction my voter base to whoever will give me the most concessions. which was Trump. And the thing is, like, I
Thank
think
God.
that endorsement really helped him. Like, people may want to underestimate that, but I think the RFK endorsement really helped push him over the line.
Yeah.
And frankly, like, I think Trump's going to reward him. Like, I think that RFK will probably get, like, head of DHHS is my guess. Either that or FDA. You know, and I think we'll see. I think he'll get a lot of what he wants because Trump really rewards loyalty as well. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I think so. Like, I think a libertarian maybe in the next 20 or 30 years will be president, but he'll be a Republican, like on the ticket at least.
See, the thing about the Libertarian Party that I'm concerned about is that for the past several years, they've been so flip-floppy on their party platform that even if I see them on my ballot, I'm hesitant to click Libertarian Party.
Yeah.
I voted completely Republican down ticket because I have more trust in the Republican Party platform than I do in the Libertarian platform.
It's something you have to be very familiar with how the state parties are run. So, like, for example, Louisiana, the Louisiana Libertarian Party is Chase Oliver, leftist. They care about gay marriage, pot legalization. That's their biggest issues. But if you go to like Montana, if you go to Colorado or New Hampshire Libertarian Party, they are very right-wing kind of libertarians. They are mostly like more socially conservative. Like the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire endorsed Trump the day before the election, for example. So that's the thing that makes it very hard to vote for any of them is you have to know the party. You have to know the party's the state party in order to cast a vote for anything. Because some of them are like basically like almost conservatives in their social values.
I gotta interrupt here because I'm gonna have to drop out here because I'm still having to get up at 2 a.m. to go to work.
Oh, fun!
Yeah, yay, busy season. Hopefully this will be done by Thanksgiving.
I probably need to go and get off too, honestly.
All right,
Yeah,
so
I think we're gonna need to end soon with the 1:30 mark. So,
yeah,
all right,
this has been
Rock,
fun, even though I haven't said much. But actually listen to people who know what they're talking about, so I didn't have to.
No, you have good stuff. Like the conversation we were having the other day, like right after the election, that was a lot of fun. That was very insightful. So I enjoyed that a lot. You're a lot smarter than you give yourself credit for.
I mean, I'm very smart about certain things. It's got to be one of my special interests. Other than that, I am the dumb.
All right, gents, we will end it there. Thanks for coming on. And I will see you in the Discord.
All right. See you when I see you.